Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Mactan Cebu International Airport, the Philippines' central and second busiest air hub, has seen a growth of passenger traffic and routes. This has been to the benefit of those who reside in and tourists visiting the central and southern parts of the Philippines by opening up more flight options via Cebu. As exciting as it has been, there will be even more further growth of routes from Mactan Cebu Airport with new connections starting before the year's end. This is coming from several airlines that have announced new routes to and from Cebu, which includes a new historic first direct airlink from the central Philippine city to Australia, and new connections to Southeast Asia and the US. So in this video, we'll take a look at the recently announced airline routes to and from Cebu, and I will be discussing some of the background information and impact some of these new routes will have for Cebu and the Philippine aviation industry. These announcements of the new connections from Cebu started as a series of announcements starting during the past summer. The first of these airlines that we'll be featuring is the Australian-based Jetstar. In mid-July, the Qantas Group budget carrier Jetstar announced it will launch a new seasonal route connecting Brisbane and Cebu on December 3rd. Using Airbus A321LR aircraft, Jetstar will operate 3 weekly flights between the two cities. The new route is part of the Qantas Group's expansion in the Philippines, which will also include a new route operated by Jetstar between Perth and Manila, which will start a few days earlier before the Brisbane-Cebu route on November 27. Following Jetstar, the second airline to announce a new route from Cebu was Cebu Pacific. Already with the largest network from Cebu with 15 routes, the Philippine-based budget carrier is adding a new route to the popular resort destination of El Nido on the western island of Palawan, with daily flights starting October 26. In a much bigger announcement, AirAsia Philippines announced the reopening of its hub in Cebu. Currently operating flights between Manila and Cebu, AirAsia Philippines will launch 3 domestic and 2 international routes from Cebu starting November 15. On that day, the Philippine-based AirAsia subsidiary will launch domestic connections to Caticlan, Davao, and Iloilo, along with international flights to Kuala Lumpur and Macau. Joining AirAsia Philippines in launching flights between Cebu and Kuala Lumpur is Malaysia Aviation Group's subsidiary, Firefly. Part of its own network expansion, Malaysia Aviation Group announced Firefly will start its own competing Kuala Lumpur-Cebu service on December 2nd. Among the airlines, one of the most interesting routes that have been announced came from Philippine Airlines. While Philippine Airlines announced a new domestic route to Calbayog from Cebu on October 26, the route that caught the attention of many was to the U.S. territory of Guam in the Western Pacific. First announced in late September, Philippine Airlines will launch direct flights from Cebu to Guam with 3 weekly flights from December 16. Philippine Airlines will use its Airbus A321 aircraft on the new route. Finally, while not confirmed from the airline, AeroRoutes has reported that Vietnam Airlines will expand its services in the Philippines with a new route between Hanoi and Cebu. Starting December 2nd, the thrice weekly flights will see the use of the airline's A321 aircraft on the route. Among the airlines that have announced new routes from Cebu, AirAsia Philippines' slate of routes marks a comeback for its Cebu hub and a major investment in the central Philippine city. Previously, AirAsia Philippines had operated routes from Cebu such as to Seoul and Tokyo Narita, which were suspended. So the airline has since operated the majority of its domestic and international flights with its Airbus A320 aircraft to and from Manila. This time, AirAsia Philippines is relaunching its hub in Cebu, which the airline has stated will be supported by the ongoing pilot and cabin crew recruitment drive. The newly hired pilots and crew will be based in Cebu. So now past the pandemic and with the growth of passenger traffic to and from Cebu, AirAsia sees the city as a major part of its growth strategy in the Philippines. In its announcement of the Cebu hub relaunch, AirAsia Philippines President and Chief Executive Officer Suresh Banga said, quote, "Cebu remains a major driver in realizing our growth story in the Philippines. We recognize the value of this very important route connecting via Cebu to key domestic and international leisure markets. We look forward to further broadening opportunities in the tourism sector, helping generate jobs, and ultimately contributing to the inclusive economic growth. This initiative also allowed us to welcome new all-star pilots, cabin crew, and ramp agents who will augment the manpower requirements." Going forward, AirAsia Philippines will be the third biggest airline at the Mactan Cebu Airport based on its network. It'll offer more low-cost travel options to and from the central Philippines along with connections to other destinations on the AirAsia network through the airline group's big hub at Kuala Lumpur. The airline will also offer more options for travelers from Cebu within the Philippines to Boracay via Caticlan and Iloilo. However, its route to Davao will mark a return for AirAsia to the southern cities since it suspended its flights between Manila and Davao earlier this year. Of the new routes that the several airlines have announced that will be launched from Cebu, the three that stand out the most are to Brisbane, Kuala Lumpur, and Guam. Jetstar's new seasonal Brisbane-Cebu route will be a historic route that will open a new connection from Cebu to Australia. It will provide an alternative for travelers looking for flights between the Philippines and Australia, as prior to this announcement, a majority of the flights between the two countries, operated by the likes of Qantas, Cebu Pacific, and Philippine Airlines, have been limited to Manila. At present, Jetstar's parent company Qantas operates flights from Manila to Brisbane and Sydney. With the addition of the Perth-Manila and the Brisbane-Cebu routes, the Qantas Group will be operating a combined 4 routes between the Philippines and Australia before year's end. With the 4 routes, it will match Philippine Airlines with its own 4 routes from Manila to Australia, operating flights to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Brisbane. It will jump ahead of Cebu Pacific's 2 routes between Manila and Sydney and Manila and Melbourne. The second most interesting route will be the Kuala Lumpur-Cebu route. While AirAsia previously served flights on the route, now there will be competition between Firefly and AirAsia Philippines, providing connections between Cebu to one of Southeast Asia's major aviation hubs. From Kuala Lumpur, travelers can make onward connections on AirAsia group carrier flights, including those operated by long-haul arm AirAsia X. Firefly's flights can be booked via Malaysia Airlines website, with connections on Malaysia Airlines operated flights to cities in Australia, Europe, the Middle East, and India. Finally, Philippine Airlines' new Cebu-Guam route was probably the most surprising announcement. It will provide a new connection to a U.S. territory or state from Cebu, though it's not the first. From March 2016 until May 2017, Philippine Airlines operated flights between Cebu and Los Angeles. Following the suspension, Philippine Airlines later planned for a restart of the route during the summer of 2020, though those plans were shelved due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since the pandemic, the airline has resumed and expanded its U.S. network from Manila, operating flights to Guam, Honolulu, New York, JFK, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the new addition of Seattle. Unlike the long-haul routes to the U.S. that require the use of wide-body Boeing 777 aircraft, Guam is located around 2,500 kilometers east of the Philippines, home to a Filipino community that is 30% of the island's population of around 179,000. The airline intends to provide a new option for travelers to and from Guam with connections via Cebu to other cities in the central and southern Philippines. Philippine Airlines currently uses a smaller Airbus A321 aircraft on the Manila-Guam flights, and it will do the same from Cebu. The airline already relies on A321 aircraft on its international flights from Cebu, which is a less costly option than getting a wide-body aircraft from its Manila hub for a direct flight to Los Angeles or San Francisco. However, this is also the route that I have the most doubts. While there is a Filipino community on Guam, there are 2 issues that Philippine Airlines will need to address for the Cebu-Guam route: the requirements and costs for Filipinos to obtain a U.S. visa, and the lack of connecting options at Guam to other U.S. cities. According to the U.S. Department of State, the non-refundable visa application fee for non-immigrants starts from around $185 US. When converted, it's around 10,750 Philippine pesos. This does not account for the requirement for the applicant to be present for their interview and the cost for the visa if approved. While it looks like a small sum, the cost alone for the visa application is already comparable to round-trip tickets to other destinations from Cebu, such as to Japan, South Korea, and other cities in Southeast Asia. Many of these destinations do not require a visa, so those unable to obtain a U.S. visa already have great and cheaper travel options within the region. Along with a small Filipino community on Guam, Philippine Airlines does not have any codeshare connections from Guam to other cities in the US. American Airlines, which has a codeshare partnership with Philippine Airlines, does not operate any flights on Guam. United is the only airline with a direct flight to US cities from Guam, which is to Honolulu or to a nearby island of Saipan. Already with the flights between Manila and Guam, I can see the Cebu-Guam route as a seasonal service to complement the Manila-Guam flights during the peak summer and winter travel periods. With the newly announced airline routes from Cebu, it will be an exciting time, especially for the operator of the Mactan Cebu International Airport and the local governments of Lapu-Lapu, where the airport is located, Cebu City, and the province of Cebu and its residents as a whole. The new routes further strengthen Cebu as the second air hub of the Philippines. That's all for now. I definitely hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This has been Flights in Asia. Thanks for watching and have a great day.